I should be good.
What
Did
do
you grab my beer since you're close enough to fill it up?
Oh.
I'm just getting started.
Yeah, we are. We're rolling now. Want to make sure we're filled up.
Absolutely.
Let's see there. Perfect. So Brian and Bryndl and Brian, thank you for hosting it in your house.
You are very welcome.
Cheers.
So this would be, again, I think it's in 92. Wow, I was just looking around. Lovely home, by the way.
Thank you.
But now I just noticed that I love the bottles up there. Holy crap.
Thanks.
That is so cool.
Fun bottles from different places we've gone to visit, or just
my gosh.
different things that we thought were cool.
Because it's beer, it's wine, there's liquor bottles up there.
It's
everything.
everything. If
Yeah.
it was a cool looking bottle, it's up there.
Dude, that is cool.
Yeah.
And we don't cycle them out, and we should.
Well,
Some
I
of those
mean,
are
each
old.
one has a story to tell, but I guess eventually.
No, they don't.
I bet they do.
They don't.
If
A
you
lot of them
remember.
do. A lot of them do. Not all of them. Some of them are just cool, but there's,
Yes.
there's some of them that
Like
are.
a Kahlua bottle.
Even
well,
if you
okay.
cycle them out,
see.
I would just keep them in one of those beverage boxes that you can get at Total Wine that has all the slots. I would still keep them and maybe rotate them out or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause that
Or
is
put them in
something
another room.
Yes.
Yeah. Our goal someday is to have a house that has a basement that has like a bar.
Oh
I mean,
yes.
a man cave, but it would have a bar and a pool table and all that.
Yeah, I mean,
And
an
then
entertainment room kind of a
yeah.
thing. It doesn't have to
There
be a
you
man
go.
cave, but yeah,
Yeah.
that would be awesome. How long have you guys been in this house?
Well,
Funny you should ask.
Not a trick
back
question.
way 1999.
Oh, geez. Okay, so are you guys
Yes.
both from the Vancouver area?
No,
We're getting right into
neither
it.
of us are.
Okay.
Area, I guess.
I'm from the area. Yeah, I was born and raised in Portland, so moved
Okay.
over here when I was in 6th grade.
Okay.
But
Pretty
that was
much-
when Portland and Vancouver were two separate cities.
Yeah,
Well, they still definitely are. I try not to cross the river unless I have to, but I like it
Yeah.
up here better.
Yes,
I joke
Agreed.
that he's allergic to the river.
I am. Yeah, once a week. Here I go.
Yeah, yeah. So we moved over here when I was in the 6th grade,
Okay.
and then moved around a little bit. I jokingly call Vancouver the vortex because I tried to escape twice and it sucked me back in. And so here I am.
Or the black hole.
The black hole. It's the black hole of Vancouver.
I'm assuming that was when you were younger and you felt like you had to get the hell out of here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most kids have that feeling about
Yeah.
their hometown.
yeah. So I went to Seattle. I went to the University of Washington.
That's right.
Go
I've seen your
Dogs.
license plate. Yes.
Yes, go
Okay.
Dogs. And so I spent 6 years up there.
Okay.
Came back home. My mother and I were very close, but my mother was going through a really, really hard time.
Okay.
And I just needed to kind of get away. And
Yeah.
so my dad and stepmom have lived in Alaska most of my life.
Oh, okay.
So I decided to move to Fairbanks and spent 3.5 years up in Fairbanks.
At what age are we talking? This after college?
Yeah. I was
Okay.
26 to 24 to 27
That's
was when I
awesome.
moved to Alaska and lived there. And then came back here at 28, met Brian.
And it's, again, the vortex sucked you back in.
The
But
vortex.
that's, I mean, I've actually never been there, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it. Like, Alaska is a different type of people. It's a different type of living. I think it could be an amazing way, but it's maybe more rugged. It's a more demanding lifestyle, maybe.
for sure.
Just everything's harder. The elements are harder. Things you take for granted down here in the continental United States,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
But so Fairbanks, back then even, was it like 100,000, 150,000?
Even still now, what is it at 160 now? The last time you checked?
But I think it's the whole borough. So like the county
Including the
would be that
suburbs,
much,
like-
right?
Yeah.
Correct. The
Oh,
whole
okay.
is like a county.
So
the
it's maybe
whole-
the size of Vancouver.
not
It's much smaller than
Yes.
Vancouver.
Okay.
a lot
Okay.
smaller.
Yeah, so the borough is the same size as Vancouver, right?
Okay.
But
Correct.
then Fairbanks proper, I think, has 80,000 in it.
Oh, geez.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's small.
So when you moved up there, I'm assuming you just wanted to get out of Seattle, get away from here for work. You had a job, or were you just
No.
continuing school, or just hanging out?
No, I just went up to, my dad lived up there,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was already heading up there for Thanksgiving,
Okay.
and I just asked my dad, I said, what do you think if I make it a one-way ticket?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he had always wanted me to move up there.
Okay.
And so I did. I moved up there and got a job pretty quickly. I had some mortgage background with my mom. And
Okay.
so when I moved up there, I got a job at a title company.
Okay.
And that's when I realized, sorry, all you title people, but oh boy, that was a hard job. It was so boring.
Yes. Tedious.
Gosh, tedious. Tedious is a good word. And then from there I moved on to becoming I was a treatment counselor at a residential treatment facility.
Okay.
I was a counselor.
Okay.
And so basically what I did was I just, hung out with the kids. I was able to keep them, we had different curriculums that we had to teach. And
Was this for adolescents?
for adolescents,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, not adults. Okay.
Not adults, no. It was called a residential treatment center, and it was the first one of its kind in Fairbanks. And what we did is we handled kids with very, very traumatic upbringings.
Okay.
And so that was one of my first experiences into children that really, truly had terrible childhoods.
Yeah.
And just being able to be there with them and help them through it and, kind of teach them how to be functioning members of society because they had such terrible upbringings.
Yeah.
And I loved the kids, absolutely loved the kids. Red tape and I do not get along. And there is a lot of red tape in social services.
Yes, there is. Pretty much any government agency. I'm
Yeah.
assuming it was a government agency.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or there was.
Was.
It was run by the city of Fairbanks. So I was basically a city employee, and I loved the kids, which is funny because I don't particularly like kids, but these were all mostly teenagers.
Right.
And just being able to be with them and see the light bulb and see them go from these troubled, scared, acting out kids to someone who actually trusted you and would, start confiding in you was amazing.
They start feeling safe. And they have some structure, which they probably never had before that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what I realized is, as you know, and my husband definitely knows, it's hard for me to stay silent. And so when I see...
Why would you think I know that? 7 years at Costco with you? No, never noticed it.
No, not at all.
Who's Bryndl?
Yeah. Yeah.
She's so quiet. She's always in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I realized is I said the wrong thing to the wrong person and ended up getting blackballed.
Oh, okay.
And so I ended up leaving of my own accord before I was asked to leave.
Yeah.
But that was really hard. So it was hard leaving the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So I had a side job working it was a restaurant and bar.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd had a side job. I was a waitress and a bartender. And
Yeah.
so I did that for a little bit. And then decided I wanted to go back to school.
Okay.
So applied for a master's degree program in Fairbanks. Well, it was a new program because my major was society and justice, which was kind of the precursor to criminal justice. And so I wanted to take a criminal justice master's. Well, this particular program was brand new, and they were giving priority to anybody who was already in law enforcement.
Oh, of course. Okay.
And there was only I think 25 or 30 spots.
Right.
So I didn't get in, and I was kind of at this crossroads where I didn't really know what I was going to do. I was getting out of I say a bad relationship. It was a relationship where he and I were great friends, but it was really hard to. We didn't do good together, but we were great friends.
Right.
But because we had all of the same circles, all of our friendships were all the same.
Oh.
It was hard to just stay friends. We kept ending up back in this
It's
Well, it's Fairbanks.
It's like a vicious cycle. It is
Yeah.
a small town,
Yeah.
right? And everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
And because I was the
Yes.
bartender at the bar that he hung out
crap.
with,
That would be hard.
I really made sure that there
Yes.
were no other girls that were going to get his attention, and so it was, it was bad.
So you were being totally reasonable about it.
Absolutely.
I'm kidding. Just-
Absolutely.
That would be hard.
Yeah. And during this time, my mom, who lived here in Vancouver, she had her own business as a mortgage loan processor.
Okay.
And she had called me up and just said, "Hey, I've got more business than I know what to do with. I know you're struggling. You don't really have a career."
Let's just pause on that. Define that mortgage loan processor. So you have the realtor that finds the person that wants the house and sells it. Then the mortgage loan processor, do they work independently or do they work for the mortgage company?
So yes is the answer, because when I first got involved, it was independent.
Okay.
So processors could be either employees of the mortgage company, or they could be 1099 contractors.
And just like, self-employed technically.
Yeah.
But are they the ones that you go in when you actually sign the book, this thick, and all? Are they the ones that give you that thing when you buy the house?
No.
That's the escrow officer.
Escrow officer. Okay.
Yeah.
Mortgage loan processors are the ones that get you approved for the loan?
Yeah, pretty much, because they do all the work. So usually what a mortgage loan officer does.
And I hope this isn't annoying, but I'm interested.
No.
You keep smiling, both of you.
So all of my friends who are mortgage loan officers are going to hate me for this.
No, say it. Oh,
Yeah.
this is the best part.
Yeah. And I can say, because I was a loan officer as well.
I brought you 3, so yes.
I was in fact, I was a mortgage broker, so
Okay.
I feel okay saying this. But usually what happens is, let's say that you want a loan for a home.
Yes.
And so you come to me as the mortgage loan broker or loan officer.
It's kind of like an insurance broker. You try to find the best mortgage for me. And you're
Yeah.
going through several different companies.
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
not like you just go to your
Sometimes.
credit union. You're trying to search the best lender.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so you give me all your paperwork, you give me your bank statements, and
Yep.
you give me your W-2s and all of that. Well, what that loan officer does is they come and they turn around and they hand it to a processor.
Okay.
And the processor basically makes sure that you got everything, make sure everything is, all the I's are dotted, all the T's are
Yes,
crossed.
yeah.
And then the processor submits it to the underwriter. Well, most loan officers, I shouldn't say most, a lot of loan officers, they're not as good at the details.
Right.
And so it's really good for them to have a processor that can put everything together in a pretty picture.
Make sure nothing's missed.
Make sure nothing's missed, get it submitted to an underwriter, and then that frees up the loan officer to be able to go out and get more loans, which is a
Okay.
win-win. And then usually the processor will either be paid out of the commissions on the loan, or if they're a W-2 employee, then they're just getting, their wages.
Yeah. Why are there so many levels to it? Does it have to be that way, or is the system built and designed to just create jobs that create positions that don't necessarily need to be there? You know what I mean? Why does there have to be so many people involved, so many steps?
Well, I think because when you have people working within their strengths, so
Okay.
most loan officers are, for all intents and purposes, salespeople.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they go out, they're hustling up the sales. They are not always as good at the details. They're not always as good at the follow-up.
Got it.
And so because what happens when you do a loan is you hand it to the processor hands it to the underwriter. Well, the underwriter is the liaison between the mortgage broker and the lender.
Okay.
And so the underwriter's job is to make sure that when the lender gets the loan, the lender actually wants to buy it. Because what can happen is if something was misconstrued or something was missed, the lender can refuse to buy the loan.
Oh.
And that leaves the mortgage broker
Got it.
in a little bit of a pickle.
So there's a lot of specialty areas in this whole process, and it's hard for one person to be able to do everything. That's why you need these levels.
It really is.
Okay.
You can do it. And when the market crashed, there was a lot of processors out of work because loan officers were doing it all themselves.
Yeah.
But ideally, what you want is you want the loan officers to be able to be out on the streets, hustling up more loans,
Yeah.
Making more business.
And if they have to spend all this time doing the other jobs, they're not out there drumming up
Right.
more business.
Yep.
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 Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I got into processing, we were all 1099.
So sorry, let's get back to
Yeah.
you come back down here. Your mom has a mortgage loan processing business. That's what she was doing. Okay, and then you come down here because you couldn't get into the master's degree program up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there just wasn't a lot of doors opening. The good or the bad of Fairbanks is there wasn't a lot of jobs up there that I either wanted or was qualified for.
Okay.
I did get offered a few positions, but they were not in Fairbanks. So I got offered one in Nome, which is, I don't even know how far away, but like Fairbanks is the middle of the state, and
Yep.
Nome is all the way.
Closer to Russia.
Yeah,
Right?
like
but it's on the coast.
it's on
I
the
think,
coast,
but it's
yeah.
farther west. It would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so my whole point of moving to Fairbanks was to be with my family. So I wasn't going to move
right.
to Nome.
Yeah. That defeats the purpose.
Yeah. And so between not getting into the master's program, between not being able to find, a career-focused job, the relationship not, I just...
Oh,
I,
right. That
I-
too. Yeah.
I really saw this just nasty, vicious cycle.
You didn't want to get caught in.
Yeah. And so Mom called and I said, yeah, I'll come back.
Okay.
And so I came back, and about a year later was my 10-year high school reunion.
No, from what high school?
Fort Vancouver.
Okay, got it.
Go Trappers.
Hell yeah. Give them a shout out, yes.
And so in 2004
There you go.
was when I met Brian.
Okay. So,
And-
see, it was a good thing you came back here. See how
It-
things work out, right, Brian? Huh?
It was.
Yes.
Most of the time I agree
Is
with
that
that
the right
too.
answer?
Yes, that's.
Okay, good.
You're
Yes.
smart. You're supposed to check with your wife first. It only took me 3 marriages to learn that. Oh, I'm a quick one.
When we get a new couch, I won't have to ask all the time. It won't matter.
So you come back down here and start working for your mom. Meet Brian. Okay, that's a story. How'd you meet?
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
I told you we're going till 10 or 11.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get into a ton of the details.
No, and you don't have to. Don't share
But-
anything you don't want to, because I
but-
hate editing. Don't tell me you have to want me to edit something out after. That's just more work for me.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
So Brian's best friend married a gal that I graduated with.
Okay.
So Deanne is who I graduated with. Deanne married Josh. Josh and Brian were best friends.
Oh, we're going back to the 10-year reunion.
Yeah, we're going back to the
Yeah.
10-year reunion.
That's okay.
And so the 10-year reunion was at the McMenamins Kennedy School
Yeah, I know it
over
well.
in Portland.
Yep.
And so we were all there for the 10-year reunion. Well, Brian and Josh, and then another guy that there was 6 or 5 of them that were together. They were in the bar drinking until the reunion opened up. Well, when the
Right.
reunion opened up, they all came in, and Brian ended up sitting behind me.
Okay.
And I don't even really remember how all the conversation happened, but it
So were
came
you
out
at the reunion by yourself? I forget.
Yeah.
I don't remember
Yeah,
that part.
You can punch him.
Oh, I'm getting kicked. I'm getting kicked.
No, I had a date at the reunion,
It's
but
irrelevant.
we were just friends.
I understand. I'm not saying anything else, but
love it.
context. Because it comes up later.
Okay.
If
Does
she
it?
tells a good story.
Does it? I wasn't going to go there.
Whatever y'all are comfortable with.
So it
And
came,
remember, every coworker you work with is going to hear this
I
shit.
know,
So.
right?
Most of them already know it.
Okay.
I don't think most of them already know. There's a few that know, but no, most
Okay.
do not.
All right.
So you can censor yourself.
From your side.
So it came
And
out that he
get
was.
some duct tape and just put it on him.
Yeah.
So-
I'm used to it.
Sorry, go ahead. So the actual reunion event opened up. Everybody goes into that,
Yep.
probably the big room there.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
assuming.
Yeah. So the guy that I was there with, we were just friends,
Yeah.
but he ended up talking to one of the guys that Brian was there with,
Okay.
and came out that Brian was single. And so, because I'm not shy, I reached around and I grabbed Brian's hand and I started writing my phone number on his hand.
I love it. That's
I-
the shit out of a movie. I love that. That's a
Yeah.
scene from a movie.
Yeah.
That's
It
a scene
is.
from like My Best Friend's Wedding
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and the funny part about it is I'd never laid eyes on him because he was sitting behind
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
And what I didn't know at the time is he was busy flirting with 2 other girls. I had no idea.
Yeah, my man. I'm kidding. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Right. She won.
Yeah.
So-
I did win.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So he's smart too.
Thank you for that.
Just saying.
More tips later.
Yes.
So I gave him my number.
Wrote it on his hand.
Yeah.
Yes.
He actually
Awesome.
gave me his cell phone.
Yeah. Yes.
So I put in his cell phone. So fast forward, we went on a couple of dates, and here we are, actually 20 years later.
That's awesome.
It
Oh my
is.
gosh.
Yeah.
So you were there because your friend Josh was married to your high school friend, but
Correct.
You didn't go to the same high school.
I did not.
You were just tagging along to his reunion? To
Yeah.
Josh's? Who does that? I'm kidding. But did Josh just say, "Hey, this should be a hoot. You should come with us"?
Well, so Josh and I went to school in Portland. We went
Oh.
to Central Catholic in Portland.
Okay, so even though you didn't graduate from Fort Vancouver,
Correct.
you knew Josh from.
So
that's
Josh,
right.
so Josh and I
see.
went to Central,
Yes.
and then but we lived over here in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
So there aren't many people in Vancouver who go over to Portland for school.
Right.
So a small band of us kind of hung out together in Vancouver because we don't go to Portland unless our parents or jobs
Right.
force us to.
Right.
So I worked at a local Burgerville,
Okay.
and then a gal Deanne worked with me.
Mm-hmm.
So Josh ended up marrying Deanne.
And that's your high school friend, Deanne.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's how
Okay.
it all meshes together.
That
so
is so cool.
So it was Dan and Bryndl's high school reunion. So Josh came up with Deanne to go. Well, I knew Josh from high school, so of course we're hanging out, and I knew Deanne.
Okay.
So I knew Josh, I knew Deanne, I
this
knew
sounds like
the
it'll
other
be a fun
gentleman.
event. Why wouldn't you go?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and the one thing I forgot to say is Josh and Deanne live in California, so they came up to
Oh.
visit.
Oh yes.
And so it was time for Brian and Josh to be able to hang out.
Got it. I
Wow.
see. Because it wasn't
Right.
like they lived in the area. That makes so much more sense.
There
okay,
you go.
Got it. Yes.
Yes.
And
Details.
Central Catholic, I hate to talk about age, but I'm curious because I knew some people from Central Catholic, although
Yeah.
I'm older than you guys. What year did you graduate?
94.
Oh, you're not that much younger or older. But, God, who?
I'm not older. You're not
I'm
older.
older. So
Okay.
You're not that much. You're
That's
not
weird.
that much younger.
Younger,
but you
yes.
are.
Yeah.
No, he was 88. Never mind. I was thinking of Joe
Okay.
Bushman, but he was older than you.
Don't recognize that name.
It would be all football people that I would have known. But okay. Anyway.
Don't say the one name that
What?
everybody says. No, him.
Oh.
Yeah, you're the football quarterback that you didn't really particularly like.
Oh, it was in your class?
No, he's talking Harrington?
Yeah.
I didn't mind
Oh,
him.
that's
I didn't
right.
know him very well.
That's right, Joey. Oh,
Joey
he
Harrington was
he in
2
your
years
class?
2 years behind me. So
that's
Mike
right.
Doliak went to the NBA
And I know that
in
name
my
too.
class. He was in my
Yes,
class, and then
yes.
Joey Harrington was 2 or 3 years behind, 3 years behind me because he was in my
So
younger
he was
sister's
class
class.
of 97, maybe? That sound right? Yeah,
Yes.
97 because he was at Oregon from like 98 through 2001.
Correct.
or
Yep.
2002.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't mind Harrington.
Oh,
Got it.
I thought you didn't like him.
No, Harrington's awesome. I hear him on the fan usually like once a week. He comes on as a guest and talks to Isaac and Zook. I listen to sports talk radio here,
Yeah.
so that's
All right.
funny.
Well, I apologize,
I didn't-
Joey.
I'm a
I-
beaver,
yeah,
so
I
we can
didn't-
shit on Harrington all you want.
Oh, I don't know him that well. He was in my sister's
No, I'm kidding.
class. Yeah.
Seems to be a nice guy.
Sure.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so you guys meet. You get the phone number and go on some dates and end up just hanging out. So
You
at
do.
that point, you were living in Vancouver and you were back here with your mom working for her.
Correct.
And you were because Burgerville's like a local company. Was it
Correct.
started in Washington or Oregon? I forgot.
Washington. It's downtown Vancouver.
That's right. That's
It was
right.
the Holland. It served, I believe, the Holland restaurant.
Okay.
Popstra was the name, I think
Propstra.
so. Propstra.
Okay.
So the Holland, and then he branched out into Burgerville. I don't know all the details, but the Burgerville I worked at, a lot of people, even back then, thought the one downtown that was the walk-up Burgerville,
Oh yeah.
oh, it's got to be the first one. It wasn't. The one I worked out that's in the Heights was actually the first Burgerville, and then the one that's downtown that was a walk-up one was, I don't know, second, third,
Several
something.
after.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Central Catholic. Were you born and raised in the Portland area then?
No.
I think no. Okay. How'd
No.
you? So just through high school, Central Catholic.
Correct.
So where were you from?
Where or who?
Where?
Okay,
Where
where?
were you
Good.
from?
I was
what
from
city?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, how
Yes.
old before you moved out here then?
Was 15 when I moved out here.
Oh, geez. So you went through
Yeah.
all elementary school and middle school in
Correct.
Philadelphia.
Well, born just out.
Pennsylvania.
I'm kind of like, I was born outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
Wasn't born and raised. Well, raised there till I was 4 or
Okay.
5 years old. Moved to Central Pennsylvania, Altoona, Pennsylvania,
I've heard of that town.
railroad town. That's
Okay.
why my dad moved there. He was a manager and ended up running the Juniata locomotive shop in Altoona, Pennsylvania. So he ran that. That's why we moved to Altoona area. And then he retired early, and they didn't want to live in central Pennsylvania where they felt that the weather was not conducive for it. It was hotter, get some 100-degree days.
Oh,
it got
geez,
snow on the
okay.
ground. And he's
Okay.
like, I want something a little more laid back. So they looked at a lot of areas that were more tax favorable, and Vancouver was it because
Right on.
Vancouver taxes were a lot better, especially when you're retired, and then you get to go over to Portland and enjoy
And
all the
yeah,
nice
'cause
things of Portland.
there's no state income tax here,
Correct.
obviously. So
Yeah.
okay.
Keep your hard-earned money and
Heck
enjoy
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Was that so? At 15, was that an adjustment? Because you're leaving your friends and you grew up with and
Yeah.
all that, and then landing in Portland, which
Yeah.
was probably very different.
It was different. It was definitely different. So it was an adjustment. Now, looking back on it, it was more of an adjustment than I had realized at the time. So when I was in central Pennsylvania, I lived in Claysburg, which was quite a ways away from Altoona.
Okay.
And I went to Catholic school, so I took a long drive through many different things, either public transportation or through parents driving to Altoona to go to school.
Okay.
So I never really lived where I went to school. So I always had two sets of people. I always had like school friends, and I always had the people where I lived close
Your town
to
neighborhood friends.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
That's always how it's been. So when I left, yes, I went to freshman year. So we'll back up. So middle of elementary school is when I transitioned to Catholic school, and then middle school, and then went to freshman year. Well, freshman year, beginning of freshman year, I missed out the first month. My family went to Europe. So we toured Europe for 6 weeks.
That's
and that was in the
awesome.
beginning. It was awesome.
Was
Beginning
this
of
because your dad had retired and had the time to
he
do it?
wasn't retired yet. He was getting ready to retire, but I wasn't retired. So I have a sister that's 10 years older.
Okay.
In 1980, my parents and my older sister at the time, and I was like knee high to a grasshopper. Because I remember them going to Europe and me being watched. Just like a vague memory.
Right.
They went to Europe, toured around Europe, because my mother wanted to go to Europe, and then she wanted to watch So there's a city called Oberammergau that does the Passion of the Christ. They do every 10 years they do a huge production. The entire city is involved with it.
Okay.
So she wanted to go watch it. So she got a job. She saved up money and took my older sister there. And then 10 years later, we'd nice to take the younger kids, and that's
Oh.
why we went.
That is cool.
So we went. I missed the first 4 weeks of my freshman year, and that can suck when you come in and all the cliques. So it's like any other high school. All the other parochial schools kind of feed up into the high school.
And the cliques are already
They're right in front of us. Like,
formed.
I don't know, there's this guy that keeps getting called on roll call and he never shows up. Well, I show up, and of course, and everyone's like, oh, okay, we have our cliques. But it wasn't that big of a deal to me because, again, I traveled to go to Catholic school, and then I had my hometown people that I hung out with. So it's really not – so I'm not – it wasn't unusual. We moved out here to go to school in Portland and then live over here. So I had 2 sets of friends. I had
even when you were going to Central Catholic, you were living in Vancouver.
I lived in Vancouver.
Got it.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So I was commuting over to Portland to go to school and then coming back. And so my work friends and stuff were here in Vancouver, and then the school friends that I didn't do a whole lot with were in the Portland side of things.
And I don't, because I just went to public school. The curriculum-wise and everything, what's unique or different about going to Central Catholic?
I only went to parochial school, so we should compare notes.
Is there religious-based classes you have to take? Is there prayer time, or you have to do things that are required as part of your curriculum? But then, of course, you're going to do history and math and English and all that shit. Normal stuff, but is there a religious aspect to it?
Absolutely. So my recollection going to school was the cool thing about parochial school is you didn't have to go to school as many days per year because
so they're private, but
they're private.
They don't have to necessarily adhere to the same standards as the public schools.
No, again, this was 20 plus years ago, but I remember as a kid it was kind of cool because we got more days off.
Okay.
Because the theory was when you went to private school, it was better education at the time.
It probably was.
Yeah. So they knew that if you went to private school, and as long as you met all the criteria, we had all the credits you had to check off as a school. You had to have English, you had to have math, you had to do all these things to graduate. So we had all that. And then to your point, yes, did we have some other classes that were
religious studies? I'm
religious
assuming there
studies.
was these classes you could take.
I want to say 1 or 2, probably not a whole lot. So it wasn't a lot different, but
And was Central Catholic at that time only boys?
it was co-ed.
It was co-ed.
At that time, it was co-ed.
Because I think Jesuit used to be only boys when I was in high school,
Correct.
but now it's co-ed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
We played them in football, and they kicked our ass in the playoffs. I'm still fucking pissed about that. Anyway.
That's got
Go-
something.
Where did you go to school?
Canby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, south of Oregon City.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know
It
where
was
Canby is.
it was a hick town, a bunch of farmers when I was there. Now it's like a bedroom community of Portland. It's
Yeah.
not even the same town I grew up in.
I
Not
bet
saying
not.
it's bad, it's just different.
Right.
So anyway, high school there.
Yeah.
And then after high school, what's the plan? You want to go to school, get a job, enjoy the working world, or?
So I didn't have a plan in high school. Just kind of did
boys
pretty
don't.
well in school. Well, I know a lot of people are going to their guidance counselor, and I'm like, well, I don't know. So I wasn't on. I was Central Catholic at the time. Was a college prep school, but I was not
on that path.
I was not on that path for lack of probably being my parents saying, hey, you should go do this. I'm like, okay, cool. So graduated from Central Catholic. That summer, got a job. What did I do that summer? I think that summer is when I started working at Frito-Lay. So I went to work and worked at Frito-Lay. My parents were like, you got to get out of here. Reasons for, I wasn't a horrible person, but okay. I had a pretty bad driving record. Like a very bad driving record. Very bad driving record. And so my parents would come to me, my dad said, okay, well, you got to move out of the house because you're a liability and we could lose everything if you get in an accident. I was like, all right. So summer after graduating, got his job at Frito-Lay downtown in Vancouver, Fruit Valley Road.
Yep.
I started out as just a grunt on the packaging line.
Okay.
And then short order moved over to the warehouse side, did office work, making sure all the loads went out on time, coordinating all the loads, making sure they got and sent out. Yeah, so I did that. And then much to my parents' chagrin, actually, because my dad's like, you should go to college, go to college, go to college. And none of us three kids went to college. And he was a huge proponent of going to college.
Okay.
So I didn't go to college. When I was working at Frito-Lay, they would pay for some of my schooling. So I went to Clark College,
of course.
did a number of classes there, working on getting my associates, but never. I was like, this is boring. It was just boring for me.
Yeah, because it's the standard classes. It's just the basic shit.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, cool. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. It's like, I want to do business management. And I'm like, no. And I worked in the office at Frito, like, I really don't want to do business management. This is boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
then
yeah,
you got into machining.
I did. So that's a good story.
Okay.
So 3 years at Frito-Lay, about 6 months to a year on the manufacturing side, the rest of the time in the warehouse side. At the time, again, my driving record, I had a Volkswagen Scirocco that I modified.
I remember those. Oh my God, yes.
I was nice. I'm sorry I sold it, even to this day. 6-speed transmission, which didn't have. It's a guy over here in the Portland. I think he was in West Portland at the time. Built 6-speed transmissions, put that in there. I mean, it was a really.
Dude,
it was horrible to ride in, but it was a lot of fun to drive. So. I would take it out. I'd autocross it. Had a lot of fun with it. Was chatting online. This is back on the days when AOL was the thing.
Right.
Chatting with the guys. Like when we connected, he had a Scirocco too. We just started talking, and he said, "Oh well, why don't you come down here to where I work? I work in a machine shop, and I make some of these parts." Like, all right, that'd be cool.
And that was here in Vancouver.
Here in Vancouver, it was called Hamburg Precision at the time. Right here in Orchards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Really
Where's
small
it at?
shop.
I mean, I know Orchards pretty well. Where's
It's
it
off
at?
136, so it's
It
Okay.
was.
you know where Fourth Plain Tavern is?
Yes.
It's the industrial building right behind Fourth
got
Plain
it.
Tavern.
Okay, I know exactly where it's at.
Yep.
Okay.
Back in the day, and so I went there one
Back
Friday
then,
night.
was Fourth Plain a 2-lane road?
No, it was
used
4.
To be. Okay.
No, I'm not going that far back. It was
Okay.
4 lanes when I was.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was
Yeah,
still.
It probably
was
was.
4 lanes.
Yeah,
I
I've
think
talked to
so.
locals that grew up here, and they're like, it used to be farmland and a 2-lane road. Yes, a farmland
Yeah.
on all sides. Like,
Yeah, well, when I
fucking
moved
30
here,
years ago.
162nd was a 2-lane road. Very 2-lane road.
Yes.
And I'm like, I know it's going to expand and whatever, but. So anyway,
Jesus,
that
is it
Friday, I
ever.
went and talked to that guy. He's like, "Hey, this is what I do. It's kind of cool." And it was, manual machining, NC machining. Like, oh, this is pretty cool.
So when you say machine shop, you're making, is it custom made parts?
These were, yes. It was a small job shop. We made parts for Boyd Coffee. We made a lot of parts for our biggest
Not
client.
just automobiles, any kind of machinery.
Oh, yeah. We didn't do any. For the corporate side, we didn't do any automobile parts.
Okay.
None. This was this guy's on his side. The owner, he is the best boss I ever, hands down, ever worked for. Love that
Do
guy.
you currently have a boss?
Yeah, I do.
He's the best boss.
He's
you've
the
ever worked
best
for.
boss.
There you go. I'm correcting you.
100%.
But if he weren't in the picture,
If he wasn't in the picture, this other guy would have been
it
the
would
best
be
boss.
Fred Hamburg.
Fred Hamburg is the best boss by far that I've had.
Stop picking up a word
I am
like
not.
Okay.
I'm not.
Anyway, so go back. Sorry, machine shop.
Yeah.
Great boss.
Yeah.
And they're making custom parts for lots of
A
different
variety,
machinery.
yeah. So we're what they call
be
a
a
job
lot of
shop.
industries.
Correct.
Okay.
So like I said, Boyd Coffee was one. Our biggest client was Lifeport, which makes life flight helicopters. They
Oh,
were
shit,
making all
okay.
the stuff that goes in the life flight helicopters. And then they branched off and they did interiors of custom jets. So it's kind of cool. So I didn't do the installs, but we were like, hey, can you get these done by such and such a date? Because this jet's flying in and we're going to refit their interior with all this stuff. So we'd build the interior parts for it.
Wow.
The hardware, the aluminum, the steel,
yeah,
the
yeah.
plastic parts, not like
But this is, again, custom-made specific
Correct.
stuff, specific specs.
correct.
It's not
Absolutely.
just assembly line cookie
No.
cutter pieces. Wow.
No, that's one of the reasons why I love the job. Every day was different.
Oh, yes,
Every day was
you are
different.
Brilliant, Bryndl. Have I mentioned that before?
Thank you. Thank
Your
Well, that's
spidey
weird.
sense was going off. So, is this your current job that you're in?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
But
I
you-
hold a
you
job for
enjoy-
about 2 to 3 years, and then I'm on the next one. Typically.
I've had that affliction until I went to Costco. Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Seriously.
Yeah,
But
that's what I've
so
heard.
you enjoyed that job,
I did.
and
Absolutely did.
is this? Had you guys already met when he was at the machine shop? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he was working at the machine shop when we met.
Okay.
And actually, I take that back. I was there for about 10 years or so. I was there for
Okay.
quite a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
I
were.
liked it because the owner was a great guy. He's like, hey, you guys know the drill. Here's what needs to be made. Here's when it needs to be delivered. I don't care. I don't care when you get it done, as long as it gets done and it gets done right. So we could work. There were many times I wouldn't work during the day. I'm like, hey, we're going to go to PIR and watch the car races.
So he was more concerned about quality, get it right, not
Quality
not
and
rushed.
deadlines. Quality and deadline. He's like, as long as you get it done, he goes,
Oh,
I don't
see
really
what you're
care.
saying.
Yeah.
You have to meet the deadline,
Right.
but I don't care how many days
How
a
you get
week
it
or
done.
How you get it done,
Right.
just fucking do it.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah. Loved
Imagine
it.
a boss empowering his employees.
That's
Imagine
weird.
that.
Exactly.
What?
Just say, as long as you get it done, I don't care where you are, who you are.
I
Just
mean, you
get
can't
it done.
trust your subordinates. How dare somebody do that?
I know, weird. Like, people know how to adult. Although, okay, I'll say the Gen X people, that's a great gig. But sometimes I've heard some people can't adult, and you need to handhold
Yes.
them and chain them
Yes,
down and say,
some-
just do this. Done.
Some people don't want to adult. So.
It's
Mhm.
true. It's true.
All right. So you were.
Yes.
You met him. He was doing the machine thing. You're still mortgaged with your mom. And what
And
happened?
then she said,
Oh, she had an epiphany.
she did.
What are you talking about?
Well, when I was working in the machine shop, the gentleman, Fred Hamburg, kept hinting. He's like, I don't have kids. He had sisters in Montana. He'd go to Montana quite a bit to visit them. Not quite a bit, to visit them. He didn't have offspring. He's like, well, I'd sell the business. I don't have anyone to will it to. I was like,
Oh.
why? I'd be interested in buying your business. And it never worked out. Never
Okay.
worked out
But it
because
was a
he
thought.
wasn't ready. He was not that old. As I'm getting older, he wasn't that old.
Right. Right.
So I'm like,
right.
okay, now I get it. Instead of like, oh, when he said this, I'd like to sell it. So then, married, and she's like, hey, guess what? 2007, 2008.
Do not put that on me. That was not my idea. Not even remotely.
She's like,
I
we
want
could
that
be a
on
duo.
You are allowed to correct him on the record.
No. I'm drinking water. There's a reason.
Because she's about to lose her shit. We're kidding.
Are we?
Yeah.
I hope we are.
No, so I
Yeah.
was in the mortgage industry.
Right.
And I had lots of friends. I had lots of what Brian perceived as freedom, being self-employed, being
Right. Flexibility, theoretically.
and I had a lot of realtor friends. And
Yeah.
so he decided he wanted to be a realtor. And part of it was because he was frustrated with Fred. Not frustrated with Fred, but frustrated with the situation because
yeah.
he was thinking he was going to buy it. And so Brian, thinking that he wants to buy the business, is thinking about these ways to expand.
Yeah.
Like he's really thinking about, hey, we could do this or we could do that and we could expand. And that wasn't where Fred was at. Fred really liked what he had. It was a good gig, and he just wasn't interested in expanding.
Got it. That would almost, in his mind, create more stress for him, probably. Okay.
Yeah.
Could, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I was in my 20s, so I was like,
You were
ready to
full of
go.
piss and vinegar.
I
Yes,
was.
Yes.
Absolutely. He's like, no, calm down, home skillet.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah. Like, I've been at this a long time.
I might know some shit you don't.
Right.
That's what he was thinking.
Yeah, and again, now looking at it like, oh, he was a single guy and didn't have any offspring, and this was his passion, so he wasn't near ready to hang it up and retire.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, well,
So you
totally
kind of got
get it.
the idea to maybe get into being a realtor?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he became a realtor,
Oh,
and
okay.
we did real estate and mortgages.
And you have to go through, you have to get a license for that. That takes an investment of time and money.
It's like $99 in a Cheerios box.
Wow.
It is not.
No, it's
There's a little more to it
it's
than that.
slightly
I know.
harder than that. It is slightly harder than that.
You can only believe about an eighth of what comes out of his mouth.
That's
just
why
so
I
you
like
know.
him. That's why I like him. It's fucking a kindred spirit.
Yeah.
We're both full of
Yeah.
shit.
No, you do have to go through licensing and,
Yes,
and,
of course.
and continuing education.
It's all in
and,
jest. I'm too much
I
of a
guess.
smart ass myself.
I
so.
know. I'm picking up what you're
99%
putting down.
of the time I say stuff, I'm friggin' joking, and so many people don't get that I'm joking. It's an affliction of the male species. But anyway,
Yes.
he gets into the realty thing, or being a realtor.
Yeah.
So we actually ended up being a really great team. We worked together.
Oh, that's right, because you were doing the loan processing.
So at that time, when he got into real estate, I had moved over to being a broker.
Okay.
So the short story is that my mom passed away, and so my mom passed away. I went to another company where I was an in-house mortgage loan processor. So I was doing an in-house
Just for that one lender.
for that one lender.
Okay.
And then through a series of events, processing changed. The laws around processing changed. You could no longer.
Did that happen after 08?
No, so this is before 08. So
Okay.
this is probably 2005, 2006.
Okay. Before the crash.
Probably 2005 when I went in-house. It was pretty
Okay.
close.
Yeah.
And then they changed kind of all the rules, and so the broker that I was working for actually came to me and he said, "Hey," he goes, "I think you'd be a really good loan officer. Why don't you try becoming a loan officer?"
Okay.
So I transitioned from processing to being a loan officer, which more money, more risk. And so at the time when I was
Is it
doing
commission based?
100%
Okay.
commission, 100% commission.
Got it.
And at the time, with him having the steady job, it worked well with me going 100% commission.
Oh, right. Because he probably had benefits.
He
No.
did not have benefits.
But a steady income.
Steady
Right.
income.
Right.
Yeah, made good money at the time.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, what we don't think of it as good money now, but at the time it was really
Oh, yeah.
it's really good income.
Because
bought this house.
eggs were 99 cents a dozen back then. So, yes.
Yeah, and gas
We
was a buck
we would
19.
throw them at
Yes.
people's houses for fun. That's weird.
Yeah.
And cover it with toilet paper. Who knew?
Yes,
Yeah.
right? You didn't know it would become a commodity.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So it was probably 2005 or 2006 that he decided that he wanted to become a realtor.
Okay.
So I was a broker and he was a realtor, and we made a really good team.
Hell yeah.
And then the mortgage market crashed.
Fucking 2008.
Yeah.
I just watched that movie, The Big Short.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
never seen it
Yes.
until literally a month ago. It was on Amazon Prime, so I decided to watch it. I was like, holy
Were you mad?
fucking shit.
Were you mad?
I almost broke my tablet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think that movie's pretty spot on,
It is
right?
pretty close,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super frustrating, and we will not get into politics, but
Sure we
Aw.
will.
The-
You can't help yourself.
the people who benefited from 2008 were also the people, or benefited from all of the subprime mortgages and all of the crap that was going on,
Right.
were also the people that came around and started enacting all the laws. And so they came in, made themselves look like heroes, and the problem was by the time all the laws hit, the damage was already done. And so it was sort of like, you know, when you're making corrections after the fact.
Right.
Things had already started to correct themselves when these laws came into place, and the only thing that happened was it just made it that much worse.
Oh, Jesus.
So the mortgage market meltdown could have been not as bad had these
All the regulation not been put in place after the fact? Is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus.
Had these asshats not come in and done all of this stuff, because it was starting to correct itself and it was starting to get itself out of it, and then they came in, did all these regulations, and it just
We don't have to do
tanked.
too much of a deep dive on this, but is this relating to the, was it the Glass-Steagall Act? That I thought that was related to some prime mortgages.
Sarbanes-Oxley, maybe?
Where they kind of just they got rid of all the regulations on lending institutions where they could.
Oh, before.
Maybe this is not related to them. There was something about the Glass-Steagall Act that lifted all the regulations that allowed these lenders to start making loans to people that shouldn't have gotten loans.
Well, and that was, so when you're looking at the whole situation, if you take a step back and you look at the whole situation, yeah, there were a lot of loans being made that should not have been made.
Keep talking. But since I don't have a producer like Jamie, like Rogan does, but
Yeah.
I have my phone, so I can do a quick Google search. But keep talking.
Do that, yeah.
I want to make sure
Yeah.
I know what the Glass-Steagall thing was.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so what ended up happening was people, the amount of money that could be made off of mortgages was so robust that the guidelines got less and less and less. And what ended up happening was they, like in The Big Short, they could start bundling good loans with bad loans, and then it became bad loans with mediocre loans, and then it just became bad loans with bad loans.
Yes.
And so what ended up happening was something that could have been really so the whole subprime, the whole what they called no doc, so or we called them NINA loans, no interest, no assets. I'm sorry, no income, no assets. If you had a good enough credit score, you could pretty much qualify for whatever you wanted. So that's all they would look at is your credit score.
And wasn't this about the time, because I think my friend did this, where they were offering loans where for the first 2 or 3 years, all you were paying was the interest. And then once that ended, the selling point was, oh, in 3 years, your income's going to go up and you'll be able to afford this mortgage payment.
Yeah.
And didn't that screw a lot of people?
It
Because
did.
when that ended, their fucking payment like doubled or whatever. But
so the idea was, and this is where so the idea was, in the beginning, the reason that you would do an interest-only payment was mostly for investors. It was a really great way for investors
because they were just going to flip the house.
They were just going to flip the house.
Oh, it wasn't meant to be for the average
No.
homeowner.
It was not meant to be for
But
the
that's
average
not how it
homeowner.
was marketed.
Not how it was marketed
Jesus.
at all. And
Okay.
so what ended up happening is, you have these first-time home buyers that are ending up in these.
Like, oh, we can get into a $500,000
Correct.
house
That they would never be able to
would have
afford.
normally been able to afford. Oh.
But what was happening, and so this is where, like, when appreciation was happening so fast, you could buy a house, and then a year or 2 years later, you'd have 20% appreciation.
So you could flip it and make money.
Or you could
Refinance.
You could refinance.
Because you had equity in it.
Yes.
Correct.
And then you're refinancing, and refinancing interest rates used to be better than purchase interest rates.
Yes.
So you could refinance. You'd refinance at 3.5, but you're doing a refinance based on a property that has a lot of equity.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so you don't have the mortgage insurance. You don't have all kinds of stuff on top
Right.
of it.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And so it just ended up being, it was a good thing gone bad. There was a lot of really good things about no interest loans, especially as an investor.
Okay.
So then when Dodd-Frank comes in and they come in and they start doing all these regulations in 2009, 2010, 2011, by that time, things had already started to correct themselves.
Right. It's too late.
It's too late. So then they come in and they start making these rules that just absolutely tanked the market. They enacted absolutely asinine rules for the mortgage people, and that's when I ended up getting out.
Okay.
So I got out in 2011 because at that point in time, it was so hard, so what I used to say when I first got in was, if you have a heartbeat, you can get a loan. And then,
Right.
And then by
People are getting loans in the name of their dog.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And then in 2011, you had to have a signed letter from the Pope in order to get a loan.
Yeah.
And that
Such
was
a
the
swing.
That was the
It
swing.
was an overcorrection.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was such an overcorrection.
So Glass-Steagall, I do remember this. I think this does relate. It's not directly mortgages, but it does relate to it. So the Glass-Steagall Act from 1933, it separated commercial and investment banking. The act aimed to protect depositors by preventing commercial banks from engaging in investment banking activities. But sometime in the late 90s, early 2000s, they repealed this act, which I feel like opened the door for this kind of predatory lending bullshit.
Yeah.
So that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was so
Basically, it didn't allow banks to engage in risky shit. They
Yeah.
actually had to be responsible with their customers' money.
Yeah.
And once you remove that act, they can just start
Yeah.
playing the stock market.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's what you have now. You have a lot of companies that have a boatload of real estate holdings. And so part of which this is kind of on the conspiracy theory edge.
Oh, let's put our tinfoil hats on. Yes, okay,
Put our
go.
tinfoil hats on. There are a lot of big companies that are buying up real estate and holding on to real estate, and that's what's keeping the real estate prices so high. Because we should have had a market correction at least twice in the last probably 15 or 20 years.
And that's why it hasn't happened.
That's why it hasn't happened, is because they are buying up all of these foreclosed properties.
Jesus.
And they're keeping them, and they're either renting them out or they are just holding on to them. They're using them as a tax write-off.
Yeah.
And artificially keeping the property values
And when
high.
they do rent them out, they're charging more than your house payment is. They're charging $4,000 a month for a 1,500 square foot home.
And that's because that's what the market dictates, because they're controlling the market.
Because they're controlling the market. Yeah. And so it's, again, a vicious cycle. And that's one of the things that which I say this a little bit trepidatiously because I haven't done a serious deep dive. But in the little bits that I've read, if these big companies were not holding so many mortgage loans, then the market would have corrected. We would not have, these mortgage prices or these home prices that are, they're really not supportive.
And a perfect example of it was Pam bought her house for $260,000 in 2016. It appraises well over $400,000 now, which is great. But even if she sold it, any house she would want to buy, even with that equity, her payment would be more than it is now.
Absolutely.
So it's not, you can't sell the house even though she has $200,000 in equity, or almost $180,000 in equity. Even if she sells it, she can't afford to upgrade to a different house. So she just, she actually has a really low interest rate, which is perfect.
Yep.
And it's a great house.
Yeah.
But you're trapped there.
Yeah.
So is there any hope in the future in 10 or 15 years that this is going to correct itself?
I don't know. I think that you're going to have these big companies are going to have to be told that they need to get rid of their.
Is this where some government regulation actually has to come in and make it happen?
I am not a fan of government regulation, but in this case,
but
I
sometimes,
might be.
occasionally, it's important.
Sometimes it is. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
God, we went off on a tangent. Let's get back to you guys.
All right.
So you're a good team when you're both in the real estate market. But eventually, what happens? Because now you're at Costco, and now you're doing something different. I don't even know what you're doing now.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
so
good.
we haven't got to that point.
No. Yeah. So that is where Bryndl went to Costco.
That is.
Do you want your other one?
Sure.
Okay. Is it in the fridge?
Oh, it's in that bottle.
No,
I don't
didn't
know.
take 'em out. I just left them in there.
Oh, well, thanks.
That's the old recipe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you good?
Thank you.
I guess if you're handing them out, I'll take another one.
What the hell, man? Did you? Oh, you had the other one.
I did. Because my plan had been to only have one, but that's okay.
I'll fix that little red wagon.
Right.
You didn't realize who you were dealing with.
I did not.
I guess not.
Take a check.
You should come here tomorrow, right?
So yes, it is still recording. We are doing good.
All right.
Oh, and I didn't mention it, but
It's not even 9 yet.
Occasionally, I will look up there just to make sure the running time is still going and make sure everything's still recording. So anyway,
Finish my glass of water.
yes, that's actually vodka, people.
Yes.
So, who wants to start with what happened after you guys got out of the real estate business?
So 2010 comes around, and we tried to hang on. So in 2008, when the market crashed, we tried really hard to hang on, but we had some investment properties that we were upside down in now because the property values tanked.
Right.
So not only did interest rates skyrocket, property values tanked. We have investment properties.
And are you dealing with renters?
We're dealing with renters.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I mean,
and you're losing value in the property.
Of course.
Yeah, we were between a rock and a hard place.
Okay, keep talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, we just had to make some decisions, and so it was in underneath the sink.
Yep, I knew that. I've been house trained. I knew where the garbage can was. What are you gonna judge? On camera.
Thank you. Welcome to my life.
Sorry. I've done it a few times, remember? I know.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So we tried really hard to hang on. We tried to stay in the industry. And so at one point in time we have a conversation, and I had a lot of friends who worked for the Vancouver Costco. And
OG.
You mean off of Patton?
Yeah,
for
OG.
Patton. Yeah, 772.
You've been
s-
here longer than that. The Andreessen Costco.
The Andreessen
You know that.
Yeah, it was Andreessen before it was Patton.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, no, because I moved here to Vancouver in 2013.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah,
Then you
so-
don't even know. It's the Andreessen Costco. Patton wasn't even a thing.
It's 772. Stop it.
There you go.
Yeah.
That is 772.
And so I just started talking to my friends. We need to do something. Like we are in some a bad situation.
Yeah, we're in a fix.
Yeah. And so my friend said, well, hey, the Costco over off of East Vancouver is going to open up end of 2010. If you
Oh,
want,
so were you a plank owner at that Costco? You started there when it opened?
I was
Oh,
one of
nice.
the initial.
The OGs.
I was.
And doing what? This is awesome.
I was in the bakery. I was a
Yeah.
rapper.
That is so funny because
W-R-A-P-P-E-R.
Garrett started in bakery sanitation before he was in the tire shop. And he
That's funny.
They line
he
up.
loved that job, but
Yeah.
not really. He hated it.
No, I was really glad they didn't put me in cleanup.
Yeah.
I would not have lasted in cleanup. But so I had some friends, and they said, they were like, we can get your application pulled. It's going to be your job to go through the interview.
Yeah, we can
process
get you an
and-
interview.
Yeah, we can get you an interview.
And by the way, it's a pretty good fucking company. So yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And so my plan was to get in with Costco and be there part-time until the mortgage market sort of leveled out a little bit and I could get back into mortgages.
Or even keep it as part time and just for the benefits. And
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I assume that's why Stan's still there. So
Yeah.
shout out Stan.
So I started in 2010, got hired for the store, November of 2010. And it was about midway or maybe to the end of 2011, I was dealing with, it was a mutual client. He was the realtor and I was the mortgage officer on he was a bad client. He was, wanted a champagne house on a beer budget.
Yeah.
And I remember it so clear because he made an offer on a house that was not going to go FHA, which for people who don't know, FHA, there's a lot of rules and regulations for an FHA house. He wanted this house. We both told him it is not going to go FHA. I promise you.
FHA.
Federal
that the-
Housing Authority.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's when you can have a 3% down loan. So basically what
Most of
happens,
them are 10%.
So is this designed for first time home buyers?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay, got
FHA
it.
loans. And so it's a 3% down program. You have mortgage
It's a government
insurance.
assisted loan, but you have to qualify for it.
You have to qualify
Okay.
for it. The house has to qualify for
Yeah.
it.
Oh.
Yes.
But it is a 3% down program. It's usually tiny bit lower rate than what going rates are, but you're
Okay.
paying mortgage insurance. So
Okay.
it ends up balancing out.
Okay.
So, but the house has to be pretty spot on. You can't have a whole lot of big issues with the house.
So when the inspector comes in, he better not have a lot of stuff on his list.
Correct.
Okay.
So
The toilet better flush.
the toilet better flush.
That's important.
Yeah.
So he wants to look at this house. He makes an offer on this house. We have the appraiser come in, and this is where I talk about like some of the regulations ended up just being stupid.
Dumb.
So before all of the mortgage meltdown, you could pick your appraiser. And the benefit of picking your appraiser is because they're just like any industry, there's good and there's bad.
Oh yeah, of course.
And so you could get, you would build relationships with appraisers, and not so that they would give you the value that you wanted, but because they would be really upfront with you and they
You
would be
could
like,
trust them.
you could totally
Yes.
trust them.
And you're going to
Weird.
get an honest evaluation.
You get an honest
Correct.
evaluation.
If you worked with the right people, yeah, they'd be
Right.
honest, and it'd be a great. It's relationships. You can
Right,
trust
right.
them.
Yes.
The slimy are gonna connect with the slimy, and the trustworthy will connect with the trustworthy.
But when they started changing regulations, you couldn't.
You couldn't pick. So
No.
they basically went into a list, and it was just a
Chosen at random.
Yeah. And so it was just the next one up on the list. The next one up on the list is who got chosen. And we happened to get a terrible appraiser. Like, I knew this house was going to be rough, but I'm telling you, this appraiser picked this house apart like no appraiser I've ever seen.
Oh man.
And so not only did I know it was going to be rough, but then this appraisal comes through, And the thing about the appraisal is the buyer has to pay for the appraisal.
Right.
Period.
No matter what.
No matter what.
That way.
No matter, well, obviously because you can't let the appraiser be influenced. They have to get paid no matter what their evaluation is. Yes.
Paid no matter what the evaluation. Of course, if the seller is paying the appraiser, then the seller is going to tell the appraiser, in theory, well, do this so I can sell the house. Where you want the buyer to do it, so the buyer's getting a good representation of the house. So it's
Yep.
So
in theory it works out, but then there's humans involved.
there's humans.
That's
And
weird.
humans are flawed. Slightly.
Weird. So I remember it just clear as day. We get the appraisal in, and I'm talking to Brian, and I was like, holy smokes, this is rough. And so I call up the buyer, and the buyer lays into me. And I am telling you, the cuss words are flying. Brian and I are just terrible. We're terrible at our job.
And this is the buyer that wanted the champagne home on a beer budget. But he's not happy. Obviously.
Those are the worst.
He's
Those
not
are the
happy.
worst people
They
ever.
have unrealistic expectations.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I remember being on the phone and listening to him and going, I'm done. I'm done. It was the last loan I did.
Oh.
It was when I hung up my hat and I just said, I am done. Because at that point in time, well, there's a couple of things going on. When I had originally gotten into mortgages, I'd gotten into it with my mom, and my mom had passed away.
Okay.
And so some of what I really loved about it was gone with my mom gone.
Right.
Well, when Brian and I started doing it together, then
It almost rekindled some passion.
it did,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But then when the market crashed, it was just like everything that was keeping me in the business was just gone. And I'm sitting here.
I'm still here.
Yeah. But you weren't loving it either.
No.
So you stuck it out longer than I did, but
I
you weren't
did.
loving it either.
Yeah. Okay.
And I literally I'm on the phone with this guy, and I just start crying, and I was like, I'm done. This is it. I'm done. And so it was at that point in time, I told the company that I was working for I was done. I'm out, and decided to go and try to pursue full-time with Costco until I figured out what I
Because you were
wanted to
already
do.
at Costco part-time at this point.
I was already at Costco.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd been at Costco 6-8 months at this point
And
in time.
then you're like, I can't do this anymore. You know what, Costco? I want to get full-time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it ended up, what was interesting is, you talk about divine providence. Brian and I are both very strong Christians, and we both very much believe in divine intervention. And so Brian has a son from a previous relationship. And one of the things that had happened is, as part of the parenting plan, we were required to have benefits for
Right.
for,
Okay. Yes. To
his
provide
son.
them for the child.
Yeah.
Yes.
for his son. And so we had been doing, because we had been in real estate, we'd just been doing like Blue Cross Blue Shield, super high deductible.
Yep.
And
But paying it every month. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
well, when I was at Costco for 6 months, they changed the rules where I could get insurance for our son, even though we were not the primary custodial parents.
Right.
And he was not my biological child.
Right.
So previous
But
to
you're
that,
married.
we are, but what Costco, previous to that,
So this was before I was there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
what Costco looked at is because he was not my biological son,
got
and
it. He
because
wasn't
he did not,
eligible.
and he did not live with us.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
So we were not primary custodial parents.
Okay.
And
But
I
they
was
changed it 6 months
Yeah.
in.
6 months in. It was June of 2011. They changed it,
And you could add him.
and I could add him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so that was, I think, the moment where we decided that Costco would be.
This might be a pretty good gig.
Might be a
Maybe
pretty
we
good
should
gig.
Oh, and by the way, I have a 401k. Oh, fuck. Yeah, maybe I should stick it out here.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I
Well-
get paid vacation and sick time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've tried to leave 85 times, but
Don't say that. Wanda will see this.
I know.
She knows I have a podcast,
Yeah.
by the way. So she just decides Costco full bore.
Yeah.
And you stuck it out as a realtor for a little bit longer.
For a little bit longer. Yeah, a little bit longer, which was nice because my son was young, and so I was able to
be
right,
flexible
wrong, or
with
indifferent.
your
I could
time.
be flexible with my time.
Yeah.
At the time, we're not going to go into that, but I could be very flexible, which was very nice. So that when he was with me every other weekend, Dad Warrior, I could spend time with him.
That's awesome. How
Yeah.
old is your son now?
I'm 21.
Perfect. That's the best age ever. You can have a beer with them. So
You can. Absolutely.
Anyway, so you kept the realtor thing for a while.
The realtor for a while. That, of course, it was rough.
You're beating a dead horse there.
Beating a dead horse. And the nice thing at that time, again, going back to God's intervention, is another a direct sales company came into our path called Advocare.
Okay.
Direct sales. And that saved our butt.
Nice.
Yeah, it was awesome because, again, it was something we could do part-time. Bryndl was working full-time at Costco. It allowed me to stay home with Bryndl, earn some money on the side, doing part-time work, doing the real estate, and it worked out really well.
That's
really,
awesome. So is that where you're still at?
No.
Oh, so what are you doing now for work?
Let's continue.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to. You don't have to share.
Yeah, no, he will. He will. Yeah. Well, so what ended up happening is I got on full time at Costco. He was doing the Advocare thing, and it worked out really well for a while, and then things started changing with Advocare.
Okay.
So he ended up for a short time going back into machining. So he went back and started machining
for a short period of time.
Right.
Can I tell this part of the story?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Because it was me.
Again,
so
nobody's listening, so it's fine.
That's fine.
Except for Gwen. I have that one listener, Gwen. I
Thanks,
give her
Gwen.
a shout out.
Hi, Gwen.
Every episode, I give a shout out to Gwen. You will. She actually lives literally like a quarter mile away. Just keep going farther down that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. We'll definitely have to meet. We'll have you over barbecue.
Yes. We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Will you? Okay, it's recorded, but you can edit it. So that doesn't
I'm not
count.
editing that shit out.
All right, so things were. I was like, okay, I should go get a job. So I ended up getting back to machining, what I knew. Got hired at USNR in Woodland, working second trick, which is not ideal, but you do what you can do.
Oh, like 3 to 11 or something?
Pretty close to it.
Yeah.
So it was it was fine. I was doing all right there. Big machine shop, so it wasn't what I was used to. I mean, these are big boy machines. We're doing big parts.
Right.
Still do it. It was fine, but it was pretty redundant. Like, okay, we're gonna do the same thing over and over again. Yeah, cookie cutter.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's cool. So I had befriended a gentleman who was working from Portland going up to there, so we would carpool. So I would meet him over in Orchard somewhere.
That
and
saves
then,
on gas. Hell yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah, saved on gas. So this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
You can censor yourself.
Well, I'll censor myself. So I would meet him, and we'd carpool up. So, again, we'd meet in Orchards.
Right.
So I would go fourth plane. We'd meet, I think it was like Joanne Fabric's parking lot over there.
Yeah, I know where that's
I would meet in there. He'd pick me up. We'd go up 205, get done with work. He'd drop me off on his way home. It worked out really well. So one day, I'm going to work, coming down fourth plane, getting into the SR 500 intersection there.
Yep.
This would be fun. So I'm coming up to that intersection.
Do you want her to tell the story?
No, she wasn't even there. She wasn't there.
She probably knows it better than you do.
No, she does not.
I know the story well, but I don't know better than him.
So I'm coming down fourth plane, getting the SR 500 intersection, and I'm coming up there probably half mile away, and I'm noticing there's flashing lights in the intersection. All right, well, this is going to suck. So I'm getting closer. I'm like, oh, well, there's a fire truck there in the middle of the intersection. Traffic's getting backed up, especially in the left-hand lane of fourth plane going westbound. It's getting backed up. Like, well, that's cool.
Right,
I don't care. I'm going straight because everyone's going to 500. I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to go straight to Joanne Fabrics or that parking lot. So I'm going. Like, oh, that intersection is closed. It must be redirecting people. So I'm paying attention to this. I'm like, well, I guess I'll get in the left-hand lane. I'll have to do some kind of a loop-de-loop to meet the rideshare guy. Yeah. So I continue to go, and the fire truck moves. I'm like, well, this is cool. This is my lucky day.
Okay.
I don't have to go all the way around and follow detours or whatever. So I'm going, and I'm heading towards the intersection. I'm like, all right, well, the light's red. I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. The fire truck's leaving, so the intersection must be cleaned up.
The light was green.
No, the light was red first.
Okay.
So it's red, and then the fire truck moves out of the intersection, and then the light turns green. I'm like, this is really my lucky day.
Yeah.
So I go through the intersection, except I wish I could pull my notes up. We knew we were doing this. So, cool. I'm going to go through the green light.
You have a green light.
I have the green light. I go through the green light. Mr. Washington State Patrol officer who had the red light, 2 of them, decided they were going to run their red light, and I T-boned them.
Oh, Jesus.
Just flipped his truck over.
Yeah, okay.
Because I got the green light.
Yeah.
Why
yeah.
would you stop on a green light?
Nobody does.
You don't.
No, that means you have the right of way.
That's what
That's what that means.
That's what it means.
I got driver's ed when I was in high school. Yes, I know that's what that means.
So coming up to the intersection, the left-hand lanes, the turn lanes there was an 18-wheeler, so I couldn't see what's on the left-hand side, but I have the green light, so I'm going.
Right.
And so, yeah, this cop just comes up just out of nowhere, just bam, nailed him, flipped his car over. So I'm like dazed.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm like, what? So the guy comes over, you okay? He's like, well, I just want to let you know. I just have like a little scratch on my thumb. I'm like, cool, dude. Like, what the hell just happened here?
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a mess because
obviously.
So he doesn't say anything. The guy who was the culprit that caused the whole thing didn't say much. He's like, except I got a little cut on my finger. I'm going to go to the hospital. It's like standard procedure. I'm like, cool, dude. Like, thanks for asking me how I'm doing, Mr. Public Servant. I pay your salary. Thanks for asking how I'm doing. So it ended up being a mess to the point where, okay, I'm getting my bearings. Like a swarm of cop cars, of course, from every area of the county and Portland. Probably everybody's like, "Oh my God, there's a cop involved in an accident that he caused." By the way, so I get interviewed. I do this. I'm trying to take notes. I'm like, "Oh, okay. I'm gonna go do what I think I need to do. I'm gonna ask people for their name and their number, and because I want to take some." And one of the officers goes, "Mr. Rohan, you can sit in your truck. We'll take care of this." I'm like,
that sounds fishy.
Brian knows a little better than the trust authority at times. Like,
Yeah.
I was told in, driver's ed as well, like if there's an accident, you should exchange info, you should get information so that you can follow up later. So I'm doing it's like, no, Mr. Rowan, we got this. We're State Patrol. We can take care of it. All right. So they do things. They interviewed me. And even to the point where at one time, one of the God, I wish I remembered his name because I would call his name out because he is the biggest douchebag I've ever met.
Let's not do that. I'm glad you can't remember it.
Yeah. So, doing through the process, he comes up. He goes, "Well, Mr. Rohan, I've reviewed the tape in the officer's car, and you are clearly at fault in this." Okay. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I was going through the green light." Yeah, he's like, "Well, you were at fault." I'm like,
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but all right. I didn't say it, but I'm like, whatever.
Right.
I was not at fault. So note to everybody, just because somebody in authority says something,
you don't have to do it.
You don't have to take it at face value.
You don't have to take it at face value.
Right,
you might have to do it at the time, but review it.
Right. Yes, of course.
So I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, dude. So by this time, Bryndl catches up with me. So we go into the parking lot there by the Hula Boy parking lot.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So, okay, we're going to go there. And one of the officers like, oh, yeah, well, just go over here and talk to this officer because he'll show you the tape. So Bryndl and I like, okay. So I go and I'm like, okay, can you show me the tape? He's like, I can't bring it up in my video right now. I can't do it. I'm like, okay, so you tell me I'm wrong. You're going to show me a tape, and all of a sudden you can't show me the tape.
Which actually, that wasn't me. That was Sarah. Because somehow or another you had called Sarah for some reason.
Was she watching Bryndl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So either way, so the guy was like, oh, I got this tape. You should watch the video. Now the video's not here. I'm like, okay, well.
I don't have the footage.
So here's the deal again. If it sounds too good to be true or it's fishy, it's going to be fishy.
Is, yeah.
So anyway, fortunately at the time I had connections. And I was referred to Northwest Injury and Rehab for chiropractor and so they did an amazing job. As soon as I went in there, they took x-rays, they did this, they did all the things, and I'm like, hey, so can I go to work? He's like, dude, you better not go to work tonight. He goes, you better go home. You've been in an accident and recover. I'm like, all right. So
there could be shit that you wouldn't notice until the next day.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's
I
real.
went home. Yeah. The next morning, I couldn't get out of bed.
Right.
I'm like, what in the hell? I was like, I was going to go to work.
No, you can't get out of bed.
No. I was like, wow, this is bad. So Northwest Injury and Rehab was like, okay, well, we're going to refer you to a lawyer. He goes, cases like this. So connected with a lawyer, and he's like, well, I don't know. I'll take a look at your case. And so he does his lawyer things, and he calls some of the people that I wrote down. And he's like, this is ridiculous, man. He goes, here's the deal. He goes, I'll take your case. He goes, but I prefer not to. He goes, what I will do is I will coach you through the case. He's a lawyer. He knows what he's doing.
Oh, right.
he knows what the end will be. He goes, I'll coach you through the case. He goes, here's what I would do. He goes, wait for the state patrol to reach out to you and see if they will come clean and they'll take care of you.
Okay.
He goes, if that's the case, he goes, that's the best option for you. I'm like,
yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
So I wait and I wait, nothing. He goes, okay. He goes, if you haven't heard anything, he goes, do this, file a personal property claim for your truck. He goes, file this claim, and maybe that'll ding-a-ling-a-ling. Hey, Washington State Patrol, you have something you need to do.
Step up,
Yeah, you should do something about this because I
Before
don't go away.
Before it becomes a bigger issue.
Yeah, I don't go away. I will not go away. So I do that.
20
like
years.
herpes.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Bad joke.
20 years. I know. He doesn't go away.
You try.
Stop it.
Okay. So I've got nothing better to do than sit here on the couch going, holy shit, I can't. Like,
Right,
I used to
right.
make fun of people on back injuries, and I'm like, I will never
No.
do that again.
No, that shit hurts.
It's
man.
horrible.
I mean, it probably hurts to sit on the toilet. You know what I mean? Like,
Everything. Like to
yes,
move. I was like,
yes.
wow.
It's a real thing.
So I'm sitting on the couch. I do everything. Like I'm gonna my personal property claim. Oh my god! Insurance companies are great until you have to actually
Until
use
you
them.
need something,
and
right,
then they
until
hate
they have
you.
to pay out. I know.
So one of the things with the insurance company is, so I called filing a claim, and the guy was like, through part of the conversation, like, well, Mr. Ohan, you hit a cop. What does that tell you? I said, it tells me he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's his fault, and I'm trying to help you. I said, because this is going to be a claim.
Yeah.
You're going to want to make sure you get the receiving, that you do well in this. I said, I'm giving you the truth. I'm trying to help you. Like, you help me, I'll help you.
Let's settle this before it becomes a big deal.
Correct, but she's just like, oh, like, she's in Florida. She's like sassy pants. I'm like, all right, cool. You're not going to help me.
Yeah.
You're just going to suck to be you in a little bit.
Yeah.
So, file my claim with the State Patrol, all the design, everything. Like, I had plenty of time to draw it all up and what I did. And so, fucking state. I don't like government. They have their purpose.
They totally do.
They have their purpose, but
they're
when
flawed. They're
but they
just
are,
human beings. They're
well, they're
flawed
so
like
big,
everybody
especially
else.
in Oregon, Washington, California. They're so big. They're so stupid at this point. So I call whatever it is, the claims adjuster, whatever, for the state. I'm like, so I submit my claim, whatever. I'm talking to the guy, and he goes, well, Mr. Owen, you've got to understand. So I give everything, like every dollar that I spend handling my claim for the truck, the tow, at the record yard, everything. And he goes, well, Mr. Owen, you've got to understand, my job here is to protect the citizens of the state of Washington. I'm like, you do realize I'm literally a citizen of the state of Washington, and your cop ran in front of me and caused this accident. You do realize that. Well, I'm sorry, man. That's not what I meant. I'm like, okay, well, that's what you said. So next. So got the personal property claim taken care of, but the state of Washington still makes no offer to make me whole and take care of all, like, the medical.
The actual physical injuries.
Yeah. So thank you to Bryndl. So she had a rider on our policy that took care of our disability this whole time that the insurance was paying for that.
Okay.
Well, of course, that's what the insurance lady in Florida is like, well, blah, blah, blah. And they were missing, like, they were paying me weekly, and then they missed payments. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, well, we don't guarantee we're going to pay it every week. I'm like, but you have, and I have this policy. And I forget, she said some other smart-ass comment, too. I'm like, listen, lady. I said, here's the deal. I said, for years. I said, I'm very well aware of the policy we have and the contract we have with you. I said, for years, I paid. I upheld my end of the contract. I said, now it's your turn. I said, I'm not going to lay down. I said, it's your turn to fulfill the contract. You need to start fulfilling it. So, I mean, and there were times where they missed payments, and I took that all the way up the echelon of the insurance company because I had nothing better to do. I'm sitting here on the couch not able to do anything. I'm like, cool, I'm going to get on the phone. So I do cybersecurity for a living.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
what's
So
cool is this is kind of my...
You're a tech guy.
Yeah.
And you didn't even want to go to college after high school, but now you're a tech guy.
I am.
It's funny. Most people that got into the tech industry were not the best students in high school.
I was still a good student in high school.
Well,
Yeah.
but they had no ambition. They didn't learn it in college. You know
Correct.
what I mean?
Totally. They
Like,
got
had
it by...
the aptitude. They had an aptitude for it, but it didn't. There
'Cause they
was
didn't have
nothing
it.
in college that would actually help
Correct.
you with that career.
They didn't.
So you are a tech guy.
I am.
Oh my God.
So going through, I'm like, okay, well, I can do OSINT. I mean, this is my foray in this. And I'm going to do all the research. I'm going to find all this stuff. So I escalated that side of the insurance company. Again, like the CEO, like I literally called the CEO and left him a voicemail, the insurance company. He's like, so we had words, which was cool because he was decent about it. And when you escalate to the higher levels of things, they're like, oh shit, that's
Well,
not
that's how
right.
you get shit done.
It is how you get stuff done, but you
Yeah.
have to know how to do it. So got that handled on the insurance side. So end up having to hire a lawyer for my personal stuff with all the medical bills I'm having
Right.
with the state patrol. So went to the lawyer, and he's calling witnesses. Like, dude, these witnesses are like, he's like, they are so far out. Like, I got a guy's like 2 blocks away says you're like, I mean, not
You had the
really, but
green
it's like
light.
you're like Dukes of Hazzard, and you were doing like everyone. All the witnesses were pointing at I was at fault because it was a cop, and cops are always right, and this
Yeah.
guy's an ass, and he hit a cop. I'm like, no, I was right. So finally, the lawyer goes, how about you go on the state patrol, the office here in Orchards? He goes, go in there and say, from the Freedom of Information Act, you want dash cam video
Yes.
of all the everything related to that incident. You
Yeah,
want
yeah.
dash cam video. I'm like,
Yeah.
cool. This will exonerate. It did.
Good.
So I go in there to ask for it, and the douche canoe high up guy that I can't remember his name, who told me that I was at fault to begin with.
Right.
So I go up to the bulletproof glass and like, well, miss, what can we help you with today? Like, oh yeah, because you're gonna come in here. So I'm like, yes, I need Freedom of Information Act for this date, this incident. I need all of the cop car video that you
Right.
can provide me for this. I need it. So this guy stands up in the back. He's like, oh, I'll handle this. Walks up. He goes, well, Mr. Rohan, like I said before, you know you're at fault, right? I'm like, I just want the freedom of information. I want the data.
Yeah,
I'm
not
it.
trying this case right now. Just
Right.
give me
But
the-
he's still
give me the stuff.
posturing. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, if you're posturing that bad, you postured at the scene, you're posturing now, there's no need for you to posture if you're right. You're like,
Exactly.
cool, dude,
You're-
here it
why
is.
are you getting defensive?
Correct.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
That's a clue, ladies and gentlemen. So finally I got it. And when I got it and watched the video, I was so relieved. I'm like, dude, that was green.
Yeah.
And the dude ran his red light. And then I dug more and talked to my lawyer. He's like, yeah, he goes, protocol. Listen, everybody, protocol. When an officer runs he can't just run a red light.
No.
He must stop.
Even if his lights and sirens are on, you still
Correct.
have to stop. Yes.
Yep. Any emergency vehicle, if they come to a red light, they must come to a complete stop.
Yeah.
They must, their lights or their siren or
It
both.
doesn't matter. They still have to stop.
Then they must proceed slowly
Yes.
as far as they can go. Like if it's a blind intersection, they must proceed
Right.
slowly as far as they can. They must stop.
Yeah.
They must do it again. They must check both directions,
yeah.
and then they can proceed. So in this instance, the officer should have gone slowly. He should have made it past that 18-wheeler truck. He should have stopped. He should have sounded his alarm. He should have looked both ways. He would have seen me coming
And it wouldn't have happened.
and would have let me go. Dude, you got a green light, you go. And then he could have gone. But no, he's like, woo, woo, flip the lights, blows through the intersection like, I'm cowboy. Woo, I'm cop. Listen to me roar.
How the hell did you get into cybersecurity, though? From
Because
going
my
to
wife.
machining
Machining.
and realtor.
So everything I had
did
done.
you grow up playing video games?
I
Is
did.
that it?
So when I grew up, I didn't play video games. When I grew up, it was Commodore VIC-20, Commodore 64,
Yes, the
Apple
Commodore
IIe,
64, yes.
IBM, clone. So when all the jobs when I was a machinist, I did all the CNC networking. I did all the programming. I did everything computer related because I knew it.
Okay.
When I got into real estate, when I was in the real estate office, I was a guy I was the first one, at least in this area, to do video home recording for properties we listed. I was the only guy who did video
Almost
tours.
like the virtual tours that they can do
Correct.
now?
Like the front
Before it was-
runner.
Before it was a thing.
Correct. That was me. I was the guy I
Holy
partnered with was
shit.
the only one. We were so when this happened, Bryndl was like, you should probably do something that's less physical and do something like, why don't you get into computer stuff? So through that, I took courses, and then I'd always had a knack for doing cybersecurity stuff. I
Yes.
always we'll call it gray hat. I was always doing stuff like, let's see if I can do this. Oh shit, I can do this. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, I can do that.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Like
it
getting
just
hold.
clicked.
It just clicked, like getting a hold of the CEO of the insurance company. I was like, oh, let me see if I can do this.
You
I'm like,
knew how to
I
do
can
it.
totally
you
do
knew
it.
how to work online.
Yeah,
Yes.
how to find the stuff I needed.
Wow.
Yeah, so I did that. But I was like, why don't you do that? So I took some courses, got some certifications, got my OSCP, hacker cert,
It's actually
and then
a great career because it's not going away. It's only getting
It's
more
not
important.
going away
It's only
at
getting
all.
more important
yeah, it is.
because everybody's worried about getting friggin' hacked.
Well, and everyone's like, well, AI will take over. No, because AI is stupid. Ask AI some very basic
I know,
things,
I
and
know, they get
it'll
it
be like,
wrong.
you're
They-
dumb.
They get it wrong. Yes.
100% of the time. So thanks to Bryndl, like, why don't you do this? You did some retraining, got some certifications, started at the ground level on the IT at the help desk, and then rapidly went up, got OSCP, got my CISP, and now I'm a cybersecurity expert, a cloud security
Oh my
expert
God.
for a
So
major
the next
financial
time,
institution.
The next time my social media gets hacked, I'm calling you.
No, don't. I won't. No, that's not what I do. That's not what I do.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. That's
Have
like
you-
asking me to fix that box if a light goes out. Like, dude,
that
I
is
don't
simple
know.
stuff. Stop it.
Yeah, but I won't do
you
it.
ended up full time, obviously, and then I was thinking about this because when I first got hired at Costco, which was October of 2017, we used to have, I think it was called a marketing team. You and Trish
Outside-
were in marketing.
Outside marketing, myself, Trish,
Right,
and
that's what
Christina.
you were doing
and
when I
John.
first got there. And
Yeah.
John,
Yeah.
holy shit, yes.
Yeah.
I
And
forgot
Christina.
about- where's John now?
John's at Ridgefield. He's a
Okay,
trader. If you're
okay.
listening to this, John, you're a trader.
Yes, we had several traders from 1086 that went there. So fuck
Yeah.
you guys. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were in the marketing team, and I think that ended during the pandemic, right? But you
Yeah.
guys were also in charge of the employee club or whatever the fuck it was called. Remember, we used to have that. And you
Yeah.
would plan
So
the
Trish,
events.
Trish and I were, and Christina, we did a
Oh,
lot
right,
with
right, Christina
the
too, yeah.
employee club.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
so the outside marketing team kind of just went away,
So corporate got rid of outside marketing in
That's what I
2020.
thought. Okay.
2021, actually.
which makes sense because at that point in that environment in the world, there was no point.
Yeah.
But you should have double masked, and you'd have been okay,
We're going there.
right?
No,
Really? We're doing that?
not going there. We are not going there. We are not.
I told you I don't like to edit. Stop saying shit
Yeah.
I have to edit out.
There's nothing to edit. That was the belief at the time. If you wore 2 masks, you were superhuman.
Yes.
Was
I
it
know.
not?
I think we're on
So-
the same page with this. Let's not talk about it.
Okay.
So, yeah. So
Just kidding.
All right.
honestly, so I loved marketing. And so that was actually one of the reasons why I stayed with Costco was because I was able to do marketing. So when you spend, I had spent almost the 10 years previous to starting at Costco
Oh, right.
as, an independent contractor or self-employed.
Yeah.
And so to be that and to go into an environment where you are now, controlled 8 hours a day was tough. But with marketing, there's a lot of autonomy in marketing. And so basically with marketing, they said, as long as you do what you say you're going to do, as long as you are, following the rules, you can basically set your schedule. I still had to I still had to work when they wanted me to work.
Right.
But
Of course.
it wasn't like, at exactly 2 hours, you have to take a break, and exactly 4 hours, you
You
have
had
to take
some
lunch.
flexibility.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
flexibility. And we were able to be out in the community, and I was able to
Yeah.
network, which I love networking.
Yeah,
That's
of course.
That's something that I love. And so that's actually the when I got full-time or even part-time marketing, but full-time, that was really for me when
That was
you
your
know,
sweet spot.
that was my sweet spot. It
Yeah.
really was.
Yeah.
And so then when the pandemic hit and everything was shut down, that was a really,
Oh, it had to be
really
rough.
tough season for me.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. And I actually almost took a job. I almost left. So a girlfriend of mine who was a mortgage processor, she was working for a company and they were just buried. And they offered me a really good job. It would have paid a lot more, but
The security wasn't there.
security wasn't there and the benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the kicker? What was the nail in the coffin was that the benefits for them would have cost me about $15,000 a year.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
And it's like 60 or 120 bucks a month at Costco.
Yeah.
Dude.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
It's a big difference.
Yes.
And so that was the kicker for me why I decided to stay at Costco. And then, fast forward, now the market has really, really slowed down again, and almost all the processors that they picked up, they've now let go. So
Okay, so wise choice.
yeah, it was a good
Yes,
choice. It
yes.
was a really good choice. And I feel like, for good or for bad, there's good, there's bad with any type
Any
of
job
corporate.
has nothing's perfect.
Yeah. But
But-
it's really given us the flexibility that we've needed. It's given us the stability.
Yeah.
So it was able to give us the opportunity for Brian to be able to focus on schooling and
Yeah,
not
yeah.
have to work. So he worked
Absolutely.
part-time
Mhm.
while going to school.
Yeah, and I don't want to turn it into we're all going to suck Costco's dick, but I'm sorry, it's a really good job.
It's a good company.
It's a good company, and they take care of their employees.
They do.
It's all it kind
They
of
do
reminds
to
me-
this point.
and there's
I can't speak for the future.
they're
They
doing
do for
fine
this
so
point.
far.
They are doing
They,
fine. Yes.
It kind of harkens back to generations before where companies used to take care of their employees.
Yes.
But also, the business model is if you commit to us, we'll take care of you. It's
Yeah.
all based on if you stay with us, everything just gets better.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
gonna pay you 6 figures when you first start, but if you actually want this as a career,
Yeah.
Right.
we'll take care of you and you'll have a retirement.
Correct.
So that's the motivation. But there's, so many generations now, the younger ones, they want that 6-figure salary
Now.
starting out. And I'm
Straight
like,
up
no,
front.
that's, maybe you can get that, but it's not sustainable and you keep changing companies.
But what if you go to college and get a degree? Do you get 6 figures? Like McDonald's?
No,
Yeah.
you get 6 figures in debt.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I'm not bailing you out.
Yes.
I've
All right,
earned my
Jesus
stripes.
Christ,
I
we gotta
ain't
wrap this up. We
bailing.
have gone almost 2 hours.
Dude, it's not even 10 o'clock.
Wow.
Well,
I told you
With-
records
you
are
both
to
have
be.
to work tomorrow, and I got shit to do.
I don't have to.
well, I don't think we started until about 6:30. So if that makes you feel any better, we didn't
Well,
start.
let me go
until
check the
6:30.
running time.
Yeah, check the running time.
All you have to do is take a look and say, well, if I don't have to edit, I can just put this in the can. We're good.
We're at an hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
That's rookies.
perfect.
We're
Yeah.
rookies.
Yeah. Anyway.
But no,
It's been
final
fun.
thoughts, please.
Yeah.
You can wrap it up. I'm not just going to cut it off.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Well,
Say something profound.
say something profound.
I'm kidding. I'm just messing with you.
Well, and one of the things, we for Brian and I, one of the things that we have always done is kind of looked for ways to expand the opportunities in front of us. And so
Yeah.
we've never been people who have settled for status quo or settled
Right.
for mediocre. We've always tried to challenge ourselves.
Or just
and-
not settling in general.
Yeah.
Right.
And so once we transitioned out of Advocare, we did get another opportunity that kind of landed in our lap. And people have a lot of different thoughts about direct sales, and people have a lot of different thoughts about MLMs. But honestly, by and large,
MLM? I don't know.
multi-level marketing.
Oh, okay.
Those pyramid schemes,
Those
you know,
pyramid
like
schemes.
Social Security.
Oh, stop.
He's about
I'm
to
not
go on-
wrong.
He's about to go on a rant.
Yeah.
I'm not. No, I'm
So-
not wrong.
So, people talk about, you think about Mary Kay, and you think about Peppermint Chef, and you think about,
Oh, right. Oh, God, Beachbody.
Avon, Beachbody,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of
yeah.
those. And a lot of people will poo-poo those. But honestly, one of the things I've always said is that direct sales is the single best way for the average person to be able to earn an above average income.
Okay,
And
yeah.
So it is really the only opportunity that you have where you can put in part-time work. You can work, whenever,
Kinda
however,
when you want.
whenever
Right.
you want, and be able to really earn a substantial income.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we have always been really focused on is getting out of the typical American rat race.
Mm-hmm.
We've always been focused on debt freedom. We've always been focused on paying off debt. We don't have a lot of toys. We drive
Sounds like
old
you're
cars.
doing the Dave Ramsey program.
We did do
100%.
Dave
Yeah,
Ramsey.
that's good shit.
100%.
Yeah, he's
We did-
onto something.
Yep, we did do
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey.
Yep.
We don't have, we have older cars. We have,
Yep,
an older home. We've never done the keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
But one of the things too that we've always thought about is we want to do the things that most Americans are not able to do. So we want to be able to travel the world debt free.
Yeah.
We want to be able to retire and have a good income and not have to work until we're, 60, 70, 80.
Yeah.
And there are some people that are working because they want to. And honestly, I look at what we do and I don't see myself like truly retiring because I want to, be able to be involved in something.
She wants to meet people like you.
Yeah.
Wow. She
You're
should raise
welcome.
She should raise the bar. But you want to you want it to be things you're passionate about.
Absolutely.
You don't want to keep working or punch on the clock because you have to.
Because I
Right.
have to.
Right.
And there's so many people that I know that are in their, 60s, 70s that are still working because they have to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's always been our drive is to make sure that whatever we do it because we want to.
It's intentional.
It absolutely intentional.
Yes, which is so important.
Yeah. And so I always tell people, get a side hustle, whatever that side hustle is. If it's doing podcasts, if it's
Right.
playing, guitar at
Oh, that's so funny you mentioned that because I'm into this and I keep searching guitar tutorials on my social media feed because AI is controlling everything. And if I speak to my phone the next day, all I get is search results for shit that I looked up yesterday. Anyway.
Midget porn.
No,
There you go.
No, it's babysitter porn, not midget porn. Anyway.
So that's what you're gonna find, huh? It's gonna be midget
my
porn
phone
now,
is
buddy.
listening to you right
I know.
now.
Midget porn for you tomorrow.
But this,
You're welcome.
So this girl called the artist Ashley keeps popping up.
Yeah.
And basically, what she has done, she's like, I have created a songbook of like 600 plus songs
Okay.
that use the same 4 chords that almost every song you hear on the radio uses, and like I can teach you 600 songs that actually is tested and proved that audiences across generations and demographics actually like. You can start getting gigs. $200 to $400 a night for a gig to play for 2 hours.
These chords.
Using these same 4 chords, which I already know. So anyway, that's kind of what you're saying. It's
And
as
yet you're
simple as
here.
that. Yes.
Yeah,
And I appreciate
But it's
it.
something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
As a side hustle, that's the word you used.
yeah. And we talk about it, and we're hoping that our side hustle will turn into a full-time hustle. And
Hell yeah.
but and here's the deal: like as good as Costco is, I do love Costco. I mean, there's pros and there's cons, but honestly, at the end of the day, do I want someone telling me when to clock in and when to clock out? No, not really.
Right.
So I am extremely independent.
I haven't picked up on that at all.
Yeah, I know. I
Wow,
hide it well.
I'm shocked.
I hide it well.
Live with her 20 years, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I hide
Maybe.
it well.
I was being facetious.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't like people telling me when to show up to work and when not to.
Right.
I don't like the fact that 2 days a week I have to close.
Yeah.
And I understand that's how Costco works. I
Right.
fully understand that, and yet I'm a little bit of a princess.
Just a little.
Just a
Just
little
that
bit.
much.
Just a little bit.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It's fantastic. And so, one of the things that that we've looked at this side business is our way to have life on our own terms. And, I encourage people all of, even if it's just whatever your side business is, if it's direct sales, something you're passionate about.
Right.
For us.
Podcast.
Yeah, it's always better if it's something you're passionate about.
Yes.
For us,
Yes.
the company that we've aligned with is a health and wellness company that helps, a lot of people just age better. And aging,
Which is that kind of hits close to home.
We
as-
kind of all do that.
yeah.
That's important to us now that we're over 30. So
Yes,
yeah.
over 30. Thank you. Yes, barely over
Just a
30.
little bit.
Just a little bit. But the thing about it is that it's something that we're passionate about. It's something that applies to a lot of people. You can help people.
Mm-hmm.
You can, earn. Like we have been able to earn 2 expense-paid vacations in, different countries
Yeah.
with doing this, and I think that's where. Sometimes I think people miss the mark because they're scared. They're scared to either get out of their bubble or they're scared to take on, a level of risk.
Right.
The beautiful thing, and probably with what you're doing too, the beautiful thing about it is your risk is so little.
Oh, yes.
For us, the risk was a little bit of money,
Right.
less money than, a lot of people will pay for, honestly.
I mean, if you get
Golf
Starbucks
clubs.
every
Golf
day for
clubs.
a month, Starbucks every day for a month adds up.
Oh my God.
So
Why
$5
do
$5
people
a
still
day
do
for-
that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
I have
The
a
hell
coffee.
wrong
I have a
with them?
coffee pot, so I don't do it every day, but I do
Exactly.
it more than I should.
And they burn their crap.
Yeah.
The
But
price of a cup of coffee over 30 days of a month.
yes.
30 times 5. What
Yeah,
is that?
that's
I do the math.
18 or 1,500.
It's a bunch.
Yeah, yeah,
150
15.
bucks.
No, 150.
$150.
$150 a month.
Yeah.
Over 12 months a year. How much
Wait.
fucking money
How much
am I
per
wasting?
day? How much per day?
It's like say $5 for a coffee.
Okay, so 5 days a week. That's yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
adds up.
stupid.
Over a
It
year,
is.
that adds up.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I could just
You-
make it in a pot at home.
Yeah.
and it's probably better.
It
I'm not a
probably
coffee
is better.
guy. It
Oh, I'm a
probably is
coffee
better.
guy. Oh, I'm a
Yeah.
snob
I'm not.
and a
Are
beer
you?
snob and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
So-
for the beer. It's good.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
I used to work for a brewery, so I know beer.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
Nice.
You remember that? We do have to wrap it up, but you remember when I first started at Costco, you guys did that fundraiser, and I went around to 4 different local breweries in Vancouver and got them to donate a bunch of swag to raffle off the members.
Heroes Night?
I do remember that
And
now.
I do remember bringing it back in when I said I would do it. And I remember bringing all the swag that I collected upstairs because your office was upstairs. And I
Yes.
remember just and I did a mic
Wow.
drop. I dropped it there, and I remember you sitting at your desk, and you looked at me like, "How did you get them to donate all this?"
Yes.
Awesome.
You were mesmerized.
Yes.
And
I
was like,
do remember that now.
Boom, mic drop.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Good.
That's been a
So
minute.
yeah, the shout out to the brewery scene in Vancouver. There's
Yeah.
a lot of really good people that have breweries in the area, and they're always happy to
Yes.
donate for a good cause.
Yeah.
And I
Nice.
did make you give me the results of the auction, and I took the sheet to every one of those and said, "You can write this off. It's tax
Wow.
deductible."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm going to give some parting words, it's don't, God bless it, don't follow the crowd. The crowd is,
It's usually wrong.
yes, they're up to their, if you're doing what your friends are doing, you're wrong. They're up to their eyeballs in debt. They hate the job that they're doing. They have no outlook for the future of their life. They're not impacting the community.
So just find your passion, and it's okay to be passionate about something.
Yes.
And it's okay to pursue that.
We live one life. Go enjoy it.
Right. And make it matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Make it matter.
Yes. And I'm not saying a 40-hour-a-week job at Costco is a bad thing. It's
No,
not.
it's fucking awesome. I'm never quitting it.
Cybersecurity engineer
So
for
what that job allows her and me to do is
Yes.
do stuff like this.
exactly.
Yeah.
But do that.
Find
Do
your
that
passion.
thing. I work 40-plus hours a week protecting billions of dollars from financial institutions.
Right.
It's fine, but do the thing
that
that
feeds
you
your soul.
like.
Whatever feeds your soul.
Whatever feeds your soul, but with the caveat that make sure you're being financially smart, because guess what? When you're 65, 70 years old, you do not want to clock in and listen to somebody tell you what to do.
I don't want to have to be 70 years old and being a greeter at Costco because I need the insurance.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So
Yeah,
in some
the
areas of your
plan
life,
for it.
do something different to set you apart, and you will love yourself, 10, 15, 20. Just do
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
something small. Something small every day
Yeah.
that's different.
Yes.
It will compound
Do
over
something-
time.
I heard somebody say this. Do something every day that scares you.
There you go.
Yes.
It's very good.
That makes you
Yes.
uncomfortable. Be uncomfortable. If you're
Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because then the rest of your life seems easy.
this country was founded on being uncomfortable.
Right.
Man up, take charge, dominate,
Woman up. Take charge.
and that too. That too. I mean, do the dishes to the best. Okay, I do most of the
better.
I do most of the dishes in the cooking, do I not?
You do not do most of the dishes.
Oh my God.
You do most
Okay,
of the cooking.
before this becomes a domestic dispute, we're going to wrap it up.
We are.
Fist bump.
Thank
both-
you very
guys,
much.
This was a really enjoyable conversation,
Yeah.
and I'm glad we did this. So
Appreciate
I'm
it.
going to pause it,
'Kay.
and I'm also going to use your bathroom and go pee.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
bathroom's that
yes.
way, by the way.
Yeah. Yep.
Or in the pond, but
Yeah.
no.
Never do that. You probably have fish in there.
I do.